Thanks to the support as a channel member, John Howell. I've still not fully recovered from what happened in the last episode. I don't know that I ever will. Very, very sad. We pick ourselves up. We dust ourselves off. We go again. We need to put together a team that can win the Champions League, which I'm starting to think might mean they just need a different manager because these players should be able to do it. Hello and welcome to Club 3, part 22 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we've got our season review, our transfer special, and we're also going to play the cup final as well, because we may as well, because I'm sad about the season, but what you've got to remember is the season actually has gone really quite well. We won the Bundesliga so very easily. We won the Super Cup. We're in the final of the cup, so we've got a domestic treble on here, and we narrowly got knocked out in the semi-final of the Champions League. We were this close from being a legendary team, but ultimately we have won Bundesliga 2 years in a row. It's now 3 years since Bayern Munich last won it, so there's huge positives to be had. It's a little bit of a shame that Bayern Munich did pip Schalke to the final Champions League qualification spot, especially because Schalke, our local rivals, were the one and only team to beat us over the course of the season. So, of course, that gives us 2 goals for next year. Now we know how close we got to an invincible season, something I've only ever done once before in Football Manager. We lost 1-0. We were that close. We lost 1-0 to our local rivals, and we were FM'd in that game as well. So we were so close to an invincible season. So the goal for next year, invincible season and win the Champions League. Then I think if we do that, I think we could probably say the save is over, potentially. I know I've said before that just winning the Bundesliga and the Champions League with Bayern isn't really legendary status. However, winning it 3 years in a row with an invincible season and a Champions League win, I think that's probably something you can hang your hat on and retire. So that's the goal. Obviously, the save only ends if we achieve the goal. Otherwise, we will continue pursuing greatness. But transfers first. The season was great, apart from when it wasn't. Transfers, we've got 130 million to spend, loads of spare wage budget. We could have another spectacular summer. But first, let's try and win the German Cup. This is the team we're going to be putting out. No, it isn't. Hang on. That's the team I played on the last day of the season. One moment. In fact, I've just double checked. It's actually a week until the final. So I'm going to go forward a week and then pick a team, and I'll be back with you in a second. I'm not sure what made me think the final was played immediately after the last game of the season. You can see I got there, saved, had a little cry, and then came back to it. One moment. There we go. So this is actually our team for the final. It's not quite the team you've been used to. We're going back to normal wing backs because it's a domestic game. This is what we do quite often in the Bundesliga, unless we're playing like Bayern Munich or, I guess, Leverkusen. But we normally do play with just the flying wing backs domestically. So it's Antonio Carlos in goal, a back four of Van Veen, Suarez, Caldere and Ferreira. Van Ajmer at the base of the midfield, Bellingham and Carrier ahead of him, Moreira and Herrera on the wings, and then Conor Egan up front because he's been in rather good form in the last few weeks. You can see he got a couple of goals there and an assist, a hat-trick there, another goal there. He's earned his chance to start in this final. 21 goals so far this season. Obviously not close to Big Kev's 34, but Big Kev started almost every game, whereas Conor Egan has had to force his way back into the team after almost being written off earlier in the year. Benefited a little bit from Emil Hiskey getting injured and Egan kind of stepping up and becoming Big Kev's reserve again, where Hiskey had been for quite a while. But all credit to him. He's taken his chance. He's scoring goals and he deserves the opportunity to be in the team for a game like this. So we're kind of going back to old style Dortmund. This is season 1 styled. In fact, no, we were doing a 4-2-3-1. This is like season 2 Dortmund, maybe? The flying wingers and the fast striker. Obviously, we had the 2 fast strikers together when we were doing that, but it's a different style of play to what we've been doing. And let's see if we can remember how to do it. Probably not the best plan to experiment in a final, but we've beaten Bayer Leverkusen this year. We know we're better than them. We finished 1,000 points ahead of them in the league. We should be able to pick up the win. Hopefully, my shenanigans don't end up costing me. I'm turning into a hairier version of Pep Guardiola. That's what's happening here. I just like to fiddle for the sake of fiddling sometimes. Goodness me, I've changed. But it is Leverkusen who are on the attack, coming down our right-hand side. Ran Eijsma is there to clear, and Carrier comes away with the ball, trying to slot it into the run of Egan. It was the right idea, but not quite the right execution. But Moreira wins the ball back, and he does now play it into the path of Egan. That's what Egan's so good at doing, making those runs, creating that space for everybody around him. And unfortunately, we don't get anything from it on this occasion, and it is a counter-attack for Leverkusen. They're one-on-one with Antonio Carlos. They've rattled the crossbar, but it does come back out again, and Carlos collects and is probably quite glad to have that ball in his hands. We saw a little brief bit of Carrier for a second there, and he is someone we need to potentially have a plan for this summer. We'll talk about the plan for Carrier in a second, because Conor Egan has goal number 22 of the season. It's very much not a Conor Egan goal either. The corner comes in from Bellingham, and then it's kind of headed clear-ish, and then Egan with the header from a very tight angle. I mean, he's got no right to be scoring from there, but that's exactly what he's done. When a striker's in form, a striker's in form. And I mentioned that striker's in form, and there's another example of it there. 1-0 to Dortmund. Lovely, lovely, lovely. But yeah, Carrier wants to leave, and that is a bit of a problem. He wants to leave to a bigger club. Obviously, we're going to try and convince him to stay, but he wants to go to Man City, basically. Man City, Real Madrid, that kind of level. So we could be in for an enormous sale this summer, because we're obviously not going to let him go cheaply. His contract, if we can click on his little name, one moment. So if we click on Carrier, his contract is up next summer. He doesn't want to sign a new one. I mean, Southampton, bless them. It's nice. It's nice that they've got him on their shortlist, but bless their little hearts. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that's where he ended up off of that list? Obviously, we don't want to sell to Bayern Munich, but Arsenal, Man City, Torino are a tycoon club, Barcelona. It's going to be difficult pushing them super, super, super high with only a year of his contract left. We've agreed a price with him of 107 million. So if we can get that 107 million for him and then reinvest, we could go out and buy Bellingham, an absolute superstar of a partner. Obviously, Carrier already is a superstar of a partner, but with a year to go in his contract, if he doesn't want to renew, we've got to cash in, because we've got to be able to replace him. So job one, try and convince him to sign a new contract. If we can't persuade him, if his head is not going to be turned by us, we need to turn his head back again. He really wants to go to Southampton, but if we can't convince him to stay, priority number one is to maximise the amount of money we can get for him. A £100 million plus fee is what we're looking for. And then go and spend a similar amount on somebody even better, if such a player exists. Right, Bellingham has picked up a knock here, so we're going to bring on Big Kev in midfield. He's done nothing wrong to not be on the pitch today. He's had a great season. Emil Hiskey's going to come on as well on the right-hand side. I was on the verge of starting him, but decided against it. But we'll get him on for half an hour. He's had a real struggle with injury season. He was supposed to be... I really thought going to one striker, he would be the one striker, and he's kind of drifted back into being the third guy. But we're showing now that we are able to play all three of them at the same time. And there is a lovely finish from Hiskey. It's Big Kev with the assist as well. That's what's known in the trade as an inspired substitution. 2-0. That should be that as far as today is concerned. But I mean, this is good work from Big Kev. Maybe he's going to be playing alongside Bellingham next year. Maybe this is how we get Hiskey and or Egan into the team on a more regular basis. If we're selling Carrier, drop Big Kev back into this central midfield position and have him alongside Bellingham. He's played there quite a lot in the league this year, which is when Egan's been getting his games. He kind of does deputise for Bellingham, because Bellingham doesn't start anywhere near every league game because he's old. Got to protect the old man. Right, Ferreira needs to come off. So get to have a look at one of the Nick Jonas brothers. I don't think you've seen the Nick Jonas brothers yet, but this is Nick Jonas Geimer, who does already have 4 caps for Germany, despite barely ever playing for us. So I don't know what state the German national team is in, but let's put him as our wing back on support. And then do we want to make one more change now? We might bring both. Should we bring the Nick Jonas brothers on together? We're going to bring the Nick Jonas brothers on together. So he can go over there as a winger on that side. The whole right-hand side of the pitch is the Nick Jonas brothers, boys and girls. Get used to it. They're our young, up-and-coming, homegrown boys who we need to keep around because we need them for homegrown for the Champions League. So we need to make them a thing. Plus, they're both called Nick Jonas. How could we not make a thing out of the Nick Jonas brothers? Right, the Leverkusen have just absolutely skinned Geimer there, which is the problem with them. They're not elite level talent, which is not ideal. Like I say, they play into. I think they've both played internationally. Yeah, he's got 5. So between them, 9 caps for Germany already in their early 20s. So they're not awful, and they're homegrown at clubs. So obviously we're going to keep them around, but it shows just how good we are, I guess, that they're not close to good enough to be regular starters for us. We just have to try and keep them happy as squad players and hope it doesn't affect their chances of international football too much. Leverkusen have got a goal back here, and we're getting maybe a little bit of overconfidence drifting in. We have got one more substitution that we can make. Van Eijma's tiring, so Ayadeli can come on at the base of the midfield, and that can be that for substitution. Say Ayadeli's being linked with moves away from the club as well. He's another one who potentially could just step up and take over from Carrier. He's an elite level player. He's a regular England international. He's being linked with the likes of Barcelona as well. So he is a real top level player who doesn't really fit into the team as it is at the moment. So it might be that we don't need to go out and spend big to replace Carrier. We could just bring, if we could find another, I mean, this might be asking too much. If we can find another Stallone Van Eijma for 10 million or whatever we paid for him, we'll bring one of those in, thank you. But this is Leverkusen, a 96th minute opportunity for an equaliser, and Antonio Carlos demonstrating why we paid £144 million for him, because he's quite good in goal. Corner comes in. It's a weird corner. Ayadeli's there to clear. Their goalkeeper was forward for it. He's legging it back now. But this should be the final whistle highlight. You would think we are now beyond the added time. It'll be heartbreaking if we concede here. Ayadeli demonstrating again just how good he is, and probably should be starting more regularly. There's one of the Nick Jonas brothers playing it forward to the other one of the Nick Jonas brothers. And now Ayadeli forward to carry it. Could be his final touch ever in a Dortmund shirt, and it comes back off the post. Well, that would have been quite a nice way to end his Dortmund career. But either way, we've won the cup. It's our 3rd trophy of the season. We're getting quite used to this whole lifting up trophies thing now. It's quite pleasant. Bellingham's quite tall, isn't he? Bellingham shaking hands with this guy with a beard. Big Kev now wanders along. Who's quite tall? Look at the size of me. I'm Big Kev. Look at the size of Big Kev. Big Kev with the captain's armband on there. But Bellingham, who was substituted during the match, of course, is the club captain. So he does get to lift the trophy. He should have held it with Big Kev. But there we have another trophy. Lovely, lovely. I do like that trophy lift animation. It's very, very pretty. Right. That's the treble done. Are we counting it as a treble when one of them was the Super Cup? Now, all eyes on transfer stuff. I imagine our season review will be here in a moment. As soon as it arrives, I will show you it, and then we'll crack on with some transfers. In other news, that does get me into the Hall of Fame as well, that trophy win. So I'm one of the greatest English managers. Now, the Hall of Fame is a little bit broken because I've downloaded some save files for like some of the modded databases. So it's not a perfect measure of how great I am, because you got all of these ruining it for everybody. But I am 8th and almost as good as Bobby Robson. Probably not going to make it to that level. That's absurd. That is absurd. Give me the season review. So there is the season review. I think that's the first one we've had 3 trophies on. It's starting to look quite handsome, these season reviews, isn't it? Let's have a little look through then. So signing of the season has been awarded to Antonio Carlos. No mean feat when you're spending £144 million on a player. But for a goalkeeper to come in and average a 7.3, he has been a genuine difference maker. And to be fair, all three of the big signings from last summer have been great. Bellingham, 20 goals and assists, a 7.26 average rating, and Suarez, a 7.2 average rating. All good stuff from those three. Fontenills was a little bit disappointing, mainly because he's not been able to establish himself in the team. To be fair, he was kind of brought in for that role, and Caldere, of course, came in later on in the year. Hasn't quite reached Suarez's levels of being awesome as a defender, but we've certainly not missed the two defenders who left back in January, because he's just slotted into their spot very, very comfortably. We were supposed to win the Bundesliga. We won the Bundesliga, and we're supposed to win it again next year too. Money is down ever so slightly. I'm not even sure how. We've had a slight reduction in sponsorships, which seems insane because we're more successful than we've been in 20 years. Broadcast revenue also down slightly, but the other stuff is all starting to increase. And Big Kev, at a team that has a returned Jude Bellingham in it and a carrier who wants to go everywhere, Big Kev sells more shirts than everybody. I love that man. Number 46, Big Kev, and that is your team of the year. And we were so close to having a perfect green average rating on Moorman, ruining it for everybody, which is why we binned him off for £100 million. But the team of the season was Antonio Carlos, Garcia, Moorman, Suarez, Schikowski, 4 centre-backs. When we played like that, Suarez was a libero. Dukic at the base of the midfield ahead of Van Eijma is a real interesting one, because he only started 18 games. It shows how much rotation I've done that he did start 18 games, and it was enough to get him in the team of the year ahead of Van Eijma. And then you know the rest of the team: Carrier and Bellingham, Moreira and Herrera, and Big Kev up top. What a year from Big Kev, who of course has ended up as the fans' player of the year. Carrier is the young player of the year, despite being a 24-year-old elite player. Antonio Carlos, we know, is signing of the season. Big Kev, top scorer with 34 goals. Moreira, 19 assists. Big Kev, most man of the matches and the highest average rating at 7.5. He is just great. We also broke some records. Moreira's assists, 19 in the season, is the most we've had. Antonio Carlos, 26 clean sheets, is a new club record. £144 million well spent. Dennis Van Veen is the naughtiest boy in the history of the club. And of course, Carlos did break that club transfer record as well. And we also picked up some competition awards as well. I don't know what the Trophy France Football de Meilleur Joueur Français de l'année is, but Carrier won it. Probably, my guess would be best French footballer, maybe. And then Big Kev won the German Footballer of the Year. I'm assuming that is, with my excellent translations. Hiskey won the Copper Trophy and the European Golden Boy. Van Eijma's been going to win both of them next year, presumably. Van Eijma winning the next gen, and Jude Bellingham is England's Player of the Year. We've got quite the team there, boys and girls. Let's hopefully we can start to, win the Champions League with it from next year. But that is that's the state of the finances. Lots of money to spend, and not a lot to do to the squad. The only thing we've got to do is find a new home for Carrier. I mean, let's invite some offers. Let's see. There's going to be an offer of 107 million. Fine. Carrier's going right now. I mean, I probably should have tried to offer him a new contract first, but I suspect we're not going to be able to. Wouldn't be interested. So we need a new midfielder. But aside from that, I mean, I know the comment section is kind of suggesting I need real fullbacks again. I think the future of the team is Suarez as libero and the inverted fullbacks on both sides. I really like how that works. So I think we're going to carry on doing what we've been doing there. We could maybe get a slightly better. I mean, it's Garcia's great at it, but maybe we could get someone who's a little more natural at doing it on the left-hand side. Obviously, Van Eijma's great, but with Carrier leaving, I'm fascinated that we've only got 2.5 stars in midfield when our best player, Jude Bellingham, is in there. We could potentially move Van Eijma forward and bring Ayadeli in behind him. There's lots we can do. Obviously, up front, we're stacked. There's an argument we could let one of Egan or Hiskey go, and I think we probably would want to keep Hiskey because he's younger, has more upside, but Egan has been brilliant this season, and we're always very good in the wide areas, so there's not a lot we need to do. Let's see what offers we get for Carrier, and then look to replace him, I guess. This is sad. I want to keep him, but he wants to move to bigger club. There you go. Here are the offers. Bayern, Torino, Barcelona. Right, I think we're going to reject Bayern because we just don't want him to go there. But we'll accept those two. Matt, he wants to go to Man City. They've not come in with the offer. Him going to Torino is absurd as well. If he goes to Torino from Dortmund, who finished 4th in Serie A, that's not moving to a bigger club. Barcelona, I could accept. He's absolutely not going to Bayern Munich. We won't allow that. And I imagine he's got annoyed about it, but I'm just not selling him to Bayern. I think that's fair. Well, I guess it's the most understandable of all the moves that he could have made, but Carrier is joining Barcelona for £107 million. It's very sad. It does mean we've got £242 million to spend this summer now. It's just a very Dortmundy thing to do, isn't it? Selling your best player. It feels, I feel like it's harder to win the Champions League without him. But now the question is, do we move Van Eijma forward? Because he could quite easily step in and play that exact same role that Carrier was playing. And then we bring Ayadeli in behind him, or potentially we play Ayadeli in that role, or we play Big Kev in that role. I think I'm probably going to be moving Dukic on. We're inviting offers for Dukic as well. And then I think we probably need to bring in a new midfielder, but I'm tempted to bring somebody in to play holding midfield and free Ayadeli and or Van Eijma up to play up alongside Bellingham, rather than effectively playing a winger there like we were with Carrier. It might even end up being better. Wouldn't that be a thing if it ends up being better? Well, it's the 1st of July, so all the transfers we've got arranged going in and out of the club now get to go through. So they go through in a weird order because it tells me Dukic gets a proportion of his fee before we get to announce the transfer. But there's Carrier's deal to go to Barcelona. Very upsetting, but it was better than letting him go for a free transfer next summer. We could have taken the gamble that he would have stuck around, but I mean, that would have been a big gamble. £107 million, quite useful. Dukic goes to Torino for £54 million as well. Oh, there you go. That's one of our new signings who apparently isn't ready to replace him. I mean, he's not ready to replace him. We've signed him to be a youngster. These are the two players that we've brought in. Gregory Valette is a 6'4" fullback who can play on either side, which to me very much fits in to the way that we're playing now. He can play that inverted fullback role on either side. He can also play centre-back if he needs to as well. Obviously offers a lot of height as well. He joins for £30 million. Not expecting him to start, but going to be a useful squad option for us. And then we did bring in a new defensive midfielder, Jose Cejudo, who's a 22-year-old Spanish under-21 international who joins from Roma. Basically to play as understudy to either Ayadeli or Van Eijma. I haven't decided yet which one of them is going to be moving forward and which one is going to be starting, but I think we go with those two plus Bellingham as our starting midfield for this coming season, unless we find someone really spectacular. I think Ayadeli's been a little bit hard done by to not be playing very much football over the last year, and he's definitely done his bit. He's played well whenever he's had the opportunity to come into the team. So now is the time for him to step up and show me that he should be a starter. He's an elite midfield player. So, wanted by Arsenal. He's got to be pretty good. So let's play him. Let's use him. We've also sold one of our fringe players, and now we might be selling another fringe. No, we're not going to sell high potential young players, especially not to Leverkusen. And that is, he can go out on loan, but you have to pay all his salary. We might have gazillions of pounds to spend, but that doesn't mean we're letting players go out on loan for free. But yeah, there's your ins and outs. Those two in, those four out. So a couple of fringe players plus those two. So at the moment, we're on almost a £100 million transfer profit for the summer, which means we've still got over £200 million to spend. And I don't know that there's anything obviously that we need. New boy Valette can provide cover for either fullback position. And we've also got Nadzak, who's come back to the club, which I thought we'd sold him. I didn't realise that he was he was going to be coming back. So plenty of strength in depth at these two inverted fullback positions now. I mean, there's an argument we could bring in another right-sided centre-back maybe. We've got Suarez, Garcia, Fontanils, who can all play on that left-hand side. But we've got Caldere and Schakowsky can come across to play there as well, although more often than not he plays at right-back for me. In the defensive midfield, obviously Van Eijsma, Bellingham, Ayadeli, all three of them could play there. We'll just choose which one of them does play there. But we've got the new boy Sejudo. Maui is still at the club as well, and I don't anticipate him leaving unless we find somebody significantly better. You know what? I'm changing my tune on that already. Let's sell Maui and sign a new midfield player. We'll go and find a new midfielder who's maybe a little bit more attack-minded. Obviously, Big Kev can drop back into the midfield as well. And then if he does that, we've got Egan and Hiskey and also Vic Schumacher, who's back from his loan. He went to La Liga and scored a lot of goals for Atletico Madrid. So we're looking strong. Conan's back from his loan as well. Goodness me, we are looking strong. Dylan Norman. Who on earth is Dylan Norman? He was on loan at Derby last year and is apparently good. Well, Hasan Begovic is back. Let's get him away. But we've got Kai Norman North as well, who's got lots of potential. Interesting stuff. Let's go find a midfield player. Well, we've had our now traditional summer raid of Burton's defence as well. Colin Gray, our old left back, has joined the club. I think as a natural inverted wing back, he's probably a better fit for the way we want to play than Van Veen because he can literally just start as an inverted wing back and drift into that defensive midfield position. He's also progressed massively since we last had him back at Burton, so he comes in. We've also signed a youngster from Brazil. Oliveira is a right winger who can also play as centre forward. He joins us for £14.75 million, scoring good goals and playing very well in Brazil. And then the game is annoying me because, as you can see, it's decided to move randomly by itself, has decided to move a whole bunch of my transfer budget into my wage budget. I don't need a spare £1 million in the wage budget, but I can't negotiate it. Can't move it around, which is a problem because I've got this guy who is my Carrier replacement, who we need to give £102 million to Nice for. He looks great and I can't sign him. I've got to delay it for a week. I don't know why it's done that. And I don't know why I can't change it back. Offers based on these adjustments are still open. Yeah, I made an offer to that other guy before you made the adjustment. Why doesn't the same rule apply to you? Random game feature. So, I don't know. That deal might fall through. If we... I don't know. Maui is leaving, so maybe Maui leaving will make enough of a difference. Is there clauses we can sell, maybe, to get some money in? 158,000 from there. That's yeah, look, I mean, this is great. Really, really happy that the game's decided to do that. Absolutely delighted. Well, I guess this might solve the problem. We've just had a big offer for Moreira from Al Ali, and he wants to go. So I think we probably let him go. I mean, he has been great for us, but I think we can probably upgrade on him. I think we're just going to accept that and then get the other guy and then go and find ourselves another left winger. That's the new plan. Well, this is potentially going to make things a little bit more interesting in the Bundesliga this year. The Inter manager, Marco Rose, has taken over as Bayern manager, which means Bayern are going to be playing that horrible box system that we've been unable to break down consistently against Inter. Does mean Inter are likely to be less of a threat. This guy, he's a problem, and he's now at Bayern. So, interesting. In other news, we still can't sign that player. We're still not able to adjust the budgets, and it's ridiculous. We've done other transfers since as well, both in and out of the club. So Nadzak's gone out on loan. Maui's gone to Newcastle. One of our youngsters, we've got a young wonder kid striker, by the way, who's come through our own youth system. He's gone out on loan to Mönchengladbach for a year in the Bundesliga, before hopefully competing for a starting spot with us. But we have signed a new left winger, Jules Ilunga, who is a a French midfielder / winger who, to be fair, looks like a Carrier new gen, so we might have just got the new version of him, which would be lovely. He's joined us from Watford for £21 million. We're still waiting for Moreira to decide whether or not he wants to go to Saudi Arabia or not. We've got a few other fringe players leaving. Ribeiro's still here, for example. But we really, really would like Jose Luis Ruiz, and we can't sign him. We're considering João Neves as well, because he's cheap. But he is 29, so we probably won't. But we're testing the water with Bayern Munich to see if we can nick a player from them. No, we can't. Right, so Moreira has gone to Saudi Arabia, earning nearly £1 million a week. I mean, you just can't. You can't argue with it, can you? It's a ridiculous deal for him. Really interesting as well to see that he's only got 3 caps for Portugal. So maybe he wasn't all that. Maybe he just played out of his skin for us. But he can go and earn his £1 million a week on his 3-year contract. That's quite a lot of money, isn't it, for a guy who's only played 3 times for Portugal and is nearing the end of his career. But that should mean we're now able to go and confirm Ruiz. So yes, let's have the confirmation of that one. There he is. He's in. Ilunga is already in a grumpy about it because Ruiz is in. Didn't you see Moreira just left, you silly boy? But this guy is now in. They are designed to play in different positions as well. Ilunga needs to chill out a little bit. Can you chill out a little bit? No? You're not playing in the same position, so don't worry about it. Is he going to get grumpy now? No. But Ruiz is in, which means he can start alongside Bellingham in midfield. Van Ajma can just compete back here with Ayadeli as before. And then on the left-hand side, Colin Gray is actually our best left winger at the moment, but we've got Hiskey can play out there, Kernan, Ilunga, who's just come in. There's an amount of money left that we could potentially use to go and buy another left winger, but I think with the depth that we've got, I'm looking for ways to involve Big Kev, Hiskey and Egan as often as possible. So starting Hiskey over there or giving an opportunity to Kernan or Ilunga probably makes a lot of sense. If I find a really good left winger, I'll probably buy them. But I really like the new boy. New boy, big improvement. Can we compare him to Carrier and see how good he is? Carrier. And then compare him to Ruiz. I mean, they're different kinds of player. New boy, Ruiz, is more technical and more attacking, whereas Carrier was more of a complete midfielder, better with the defending and the physical stuff, and it was a little bit quicker. I'm actually going to compare him to Ilunga as well. So again, Ilunga, a little bit more technically gifted than Carrier. Got a little bit of a way to go on some of the other stuff, but like I say, I think he's a Carrier new gen. And I'm very excited to see how he develops. We had money to spend. I decided to get a proper Moreira replacement anyway. We're trying to win the Champions League. Young players can develop if and when I can fit them in. We need players who are ready to win a Champions League now. Nazareno Cesped is a Chilean international from Ajax, £70 million. He is super duper quick. He scores goals. He's been playing very, very well for Ajax and will just slot straight in on that left-hand side. Our best team now. Big Kev as a starter, Cesped on the left, Herrera on the right, and then you've got Ruiz, Bellingham and Van Ajma in midfield with the likes of Ayadeli, Ilunga, ready to step up as very, very adequate backups. And obviously in the attack, you've got Hiskey, you've got Egan. And then at the back, we've got Colin Gray as our new left back who can play as the inverted wing back and get in alongside Van Ajma. And then you've got any number of players who can play as the inverted fullback on the other side. Caldere, Shakowski, Valette, plus Ferreira still there if we need to play with a proper fullback. Same with Geimer. At centre back, we know we've got Suarez, Caldere, Fontanil, Shakowski, Garcia. And then in goal, we've got the best goalkeeper in the world. And a 5-star potential youngster as backup. Plus the guy who was previously the best goalkeeper in the division, who's now wanted by Bayern, understandably. We've still inexplicably got money to spend. it very much is a case now of if we see a shiny wonder kid we like the look of, we'll bring them in. But actually, I think I probably need to work on trimming the squad. If we get all these youngsters out of the way who've been playing in friendlies, our squad is now a very bloated 29 players. There's a few players who are heading out on loan. Van Veen looks like he's heading back to the Premier League. Ajax, Newcastle and Arsenal all in for him. Kernan should be going out on loan as well, but some of these other fringe youngsters probably need loans, or else they're just going to get upset when they don't get in the Champions League squad. So I need to work on getting loan youngsters out of the club now. I think I've got rid of all the old man fringies, apart from Ferreira. Ferreira's the only over 23 who's not a nailed-on starter, assuming Van Veen leaves. But I think we need him just as he's a right back who wears number 10, which I know annoys some of you. And B, it's just handy to have one proper out-and-out right back as an option, even amongst all our inverted fullbacks, just in case I decide to change the system. So we've been working on clearing out some of the fringe players. As you can see, a lot of them have gone out on loans, most notable Van Veen going on loan to Arsenal for the season, getting him back into the Premier League after a few years away. Very exciting youngster and possibly Moreira's long-term replacement. Dylan Norman is heading for a season in the Premier League with Wolves after his decent showing with Derby in the Championship last year. He needs to get a little bit bigger than 5'2" before I take him seriously. And Kernan has gone on loan to Lille for the season. He seems to like hanging out in France. I'm going to be focusing very, very much on Champions League this year, so not going to be showing you loads of domestic football, which means we're not going to do the traditional new season starts here episode. So we're actually going to go all the way through to deadline day now. I don't expect to do any more business. There's still £53 million in the kitty, so never say never. But I think that's been a pretty productive summer. We're now on a first team squad of 25 players, which if we can get them all in the Champions League squad, I'm very happy with. It might be that we have to loan Schumacher out if we can't fit them all in, because I don't think enough of them are homegrown at club. I think it's only Bellingham and the Nick Jonas brothers who are homegrown at club, which means we've probably got one player too many in that squad still. And the obvious one to move on is Schumacher, because he's the fourth choice striker. Even though he's great, he is the fourth choice striker. So I'll work on that. But first, I'm going to go and play some football matches. You'll see the results. You'll see any more transfers. But other than that, I'll meet you on deadline day. And with that, we have hit the transfer deadline and we haven't done any more incoming business. We have got a few more of the loan players out. We did try to get a couple more out on deadline day, but as you can see, two late deals both falling through. Schumacher was going to go to Bayer Leverkusen, although could still end up going to Arsenal, who were also in the loan offer. Nick Jonas Geimer, although I don't really want to loan him out. His move to Hamburg fell through as our window is closed, but I guess the English window and the French windows are still open. He wants to leave for game time, so I can't really stand in his way. So those two probably still going to be moving out the door. Fontenilles wants to go to Tottenham because they play in a better division. Absurd. 78 million is the price we've put on him, and they've not come back in for him yet. Jude Bellingham has been rotated so much he wants to start more games. But otherwise, the squad all seem pretty happy. We've managed to get it down to a much more manageable size. If Geimer and Schumacher both leave, that's a 23-man squad, and a 23-man squad, I think, is exactly where we want to be. Not too bloated, should fit into the Champions League just fine, and there's still money to spend in January if we decide we need it. Talking of the Champions League, we start with a double header against Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid. So, I mean, what are we supposed to do with that? The Bundesliga season has started reasonably well. We've not lost yet. I mean, we won 7-0 in one of the matches. We're still going to win the league. It'll be fine. A little bit of a dropped point situation against Stuttgart. But yeah, we'll be back in the next episode of Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid. If we beat them both, we're going to win it all this season. If we don't, we've somehow managed to spend £363 million and still not improve the team. I'm certain this team is better now than it was previously. If we have a look at what the game thinks our best 11 is now, interesting that the game now puts Egan in ahead of Big Kev, Hiskey as the starter on the left. Yeah, this isn't necessarily a team that I would be playing. I think we'd probably have him doing that if Gray was playing in that role. I mean, I like what that defence, everything up to there really is probably what I would do. That front three though, no Big Kev. Very interesting. Let's see how the season goes. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.